gardens have been increasing in prevalence across urban spaces. While they have a wide variety of social benefits to communities like fresh produce, physical activity, and normal plant processes, there are many things that people don't know about community gardens. One of the things is that they also bring new organisms that aren't commonly found in urban spaces. Pollinators are a key to healthy gardens. They are the key to our food systems as well. In the recent years, there's been a huge buzz around saving the bees, but a lot of people often say, for what? The Forest Service states that bees are a keystone species. Keystone species are species which other species in an ecosystem depend on. Some common keystone species across the country are wolves and beavers. Keystone species help balance the ecosystem through a predator-prey relationship, or in other cases, like the beaver, they also help restructure or give structure to an ecosystem. Bees are considered a keystone species because they pollinate plants that in turn create food for other organisms. They are a crucial part of our food system. It is not just humans that rely on pollination, but also bears and birds and other organisms. In urban spaces, there aren't many abundant spaces for bees to pollinate plants. Since there isn't a lot of draw for bees to come to urban spaces, the things that are present that need to be pollinated are not well served in urban spaces. The addition of community gardens into urban spaces has the power to draw in pollinators, which will improve the vegetables and fruit in the garden, but also the other plants around the community. Let's talk more about bugs in community gardens. Bees are the prime pollinators in community gardens. Pollination is the process of moving pollen from the flower of one plant to the next flower in order for another generation of plants to thrive. While pollination can happen naturally as weather changes, bees are more efficient. Bees like native plants, so whenever you are planting your garden, try to add more native plants to your ecosystem. Native plants are also typically better suited for the ecosystem and therefore require less water. Also, refrain from using pesticides as they will kill our pollinators. There are vegetables that can be planted to bring particular pollinators to an area. In Cities and the Environment, there was a paper that examined 19 community gardens in New York City. Of those 19 gardens, 92% of crops in those gardens required pollination to thrive. This paper also examined the effects of pollination on specific crops in gardens. Bell peppers don't really need the assistance of pollinators, but cucumber plants rely heavily on pollination from bees to grow. That being said, if you want more bees, you should eat more cucumber. There are more than just bees present in the garden. A study found that there is, on average, about 12 different insect species in a garden. These are small invertebrates that don't add to the garden. In fact, usually we use pesticides to get rid of them, but they still improve overall biodiversity in a space. Gardening also has positive impacts on individuals' mental and physical health. In a study that was published in Sustainability magazine, researchers focused on how people's mental and physical health was improved after periods of gardening. They found that individuals who spent time gardening did have lower levels of stress, and they also found that people had received a good workout during their gardening experiences. So they looked at different techniques that you can participate in the garden. Some of these would be turning soil, digging, filling pots with soil, or planting seeds. They found that the most intense workout was turning soil, and that gave people the best physical activity score. But overall, people spending more time outside and more time in the gardens improved their overall levels of stress. I think we can all agree, community gardens sound like the way to go. But there are some things people should know about before planting a garden in the middle of a city or even in your backyard. Urban agriculture has the potential to lead to a substantial net increase in carbon emissions. If a plant is planted in a less than optimal environment, maybe an off-growing season, in the shade rather than the sun, or even planted next to another plant that will harm them, there is then the potential for an excess use of fertilizer or energy input, which then reflects in carbon emissions. Community gardens also raise the question about accessibility. In some communities, individuals are required to buy into the garden to use the space. While community gardens give the opportunity to help individuals meet their basic needs by providing fresh produce, they call into question the inequalities already present in areas across the country. McWilliams, 2009, states that community gardens can fragment systems and that there is a need for governments to successfully integrate agriculture into communities and put forth additional effort to ensure that people have the fresh produce that they need. Here are some fun examples of things going on in Michigan that are really positive in terms of community gardens. The Michigan Urban Farming Initiative is a community garden that allows for fresh produce to be given to communities for free. They bring in volunteers from the community that help them continue to grow. While they are more extreme than your typical community garden, just because they're a much larger scale and they're more of a nonprofit, they set out to help bring fresh produce to the center of downtown Detroit while also lifting up leaders in cutting-edge sustainability techniques. So if you have an idea of how to improve urban agriculture, they want to hear it. I urge you all to check out their website. I used to volunteer with them when I was in high school. My sister worked with them, and they do a lot of really awesome projects to try to connect people with the people in downtown Detroit. Kalamazoo College also has multiple growing spaces that provide fresh produce for students and community members. The Jolly Garden at the edge of campus across from Arcus is home to produce that is free for students. If you're interested in helping out the growing and maintenance of those gardens, you can participate in a physical education class. We also have a greenhouse on campus as well, and of course our beautiful hoop house. Our hoop house has provided students and community members with free produce during the pandemic. It is a student-run project that ensures people get their basic human needs met. How do you feel after you garden?
For me, gardening, I always feel a lot more calm and just connected to something that's bigger than me. And that just really makes me feel like I'm doing something good for the earth, which is also good for me.
I love that. Why did you take the gardening PE class?
I really have been leaning more into my eco-friendly side, and so I thought I would want to learn a little bit more about it and how to get connected to our community as a college.
Before you took the PE class at K, did you know you could go to the Jolly Garden and get produce for free?
No, I didn't even know what the Jolly Garden was.
That's good.
My sophomore year here at K, I took the Reading the World Environments Gardens English class, which had a CCE component where we had to work in a community garden here in Kalamazoo. And I had to work at the Goodwill Gardens with Goodwill Industries in Western Michigan. And it was a really refreshing and centering experience to be able to get off campus and work in a garden and spend productive time with my hands in the dirt.
How do you feel after you garden?
I always feel rejuvenated and more in touch with nature.
Why did you take the gardening PE class?
Because I really wanted to gain a better understanding of how we can play a better role within our environments and also cultivate them to better help the environment and ourselves.
Before taking the gardening class, did you know you could go to the Jolly Garden and get produce for free?
No, I had no idea, but I'll definitely take advantage of that now.
I love gardening. It is something that I did while I was growing up. It's something that I've participated in at Kalamazoo College through the PE class, and something that I hope to continue on in my life. I think that gardening has the power to really bring people together and to bring people together towards a goal of creating produce. And I definitely feel like it makes people more active in their consumption because you're there when it's growing and you're there to tend to it, and then you create a meal out of it, and it just makes you an active participant in all stages of your consumption food process. I also think that gardening really gives people a sense of place, and everyone feels differently when they're gardening, but you all kind of have that same activity that you're doing. And I also think that growing up gardening and gardening on the Kalamazoo College campus, and then gardening and farming while I was on study abroad, like, I did all these activities in drastically different places, but I felt the same way. I felt excited and happy to be there. And connecting to the reading the corner garden, people felt this cultural exchange experience through gardening. And so I just think it has such power in our daily lives, and it's something that we take for granted. And I hope moving forward as a society, community gardens become more prevalent and they become more interesting and more exciting to people, because I think they have such the incredible capacity to be very, very powerful in bringing people together and in making people aware of their impacts in the food system.